Eight of Cups family. Welcome to Eight of Cups Tarot and welcome to your short horoscope for Scorpio season. Happy November, guys. It's definitely a very intense month to say the least. Scorpio season is always intense. It just is. It's about the changing. It's about the transformation. It's about the new growth, which often entails the shedding and the letting go. I like to always remind people that when we look at the whole of a season, it's very much deeply connected to the seasons in the Northern Hemisphere. So to get a good idea of what Scorpio is about, you want to take a look at what's happening in nature right now. What is going on is there's a certain amount of death taking over our environment. Things are not thriving. There's a lot of beauty in death, which is why if you are lucky enough to be in the Northern Hemisphere, in more of the North American regions where the leaves begin to turn these beautiful colors and everything looks vibrant and beautiful and alive, and then things start to shed, the leaves fall off and we see the bare bones of what's going on. And that's what Scorpio season is. It's the shedding so that we could see the bare bones of things. Scorpio also represents the underworld, the swamp, and oftentimes during Scorpio season, we tend to find out information that was otherwise hidden from us. Now, that could be due to a million different things, from external circumstances, other people lying to you, other people manipulating the situations, or it could just be how you manipulate or, disempower yourself in some way. Scorpio represents kind of the investigator, and it also represents, in financial terms, a reconciliation. So it's a great time for assessment. Oftentimes you look at nature, again, going back to this nature, and we tend to see the animals that are getting ready for the winter months, getting ready for their hibernation, making sure they have enough food, making sure that, and this is kind of where we're at mentally as well. We're in the preparation for winter. A lot of us are assessing our finances in certain ways as well. And you'll see this play out absolutely this month as far as the economy goes. There's going to be a lot more questions coming up, and we're going to want to get to the bottom of stuff. Why does this work that way? Why is this happening? What does this mean? You'll probably, I often see, because Scorpio does rule an investigative and journalism kind of thing, you're going to see a lot of news stories come out that could be somewhat shocking, and it could really change the way that you look at things. And I've been telling everybody, I don't care what side you're on of the political game, or if you're just completely sick of it, there's no way we're not affected. And it's probably a good idea to pay attention to what's happening with a healthy amount of detachment. And the Jupiter in Aquarius is going to help us with that. We can't be so attached to outcomes. We know that with Jupiter moving through Aquarius, and we're definitely going to know that when Jupiter starts to move through Pisces, that this is not a time for attachments. It is a time of release and letting go and understanding where we are in the bigger picture of things. The saving grace is we're moving into Sagittarius season, and that's going to be a beautiful, hopeful, regenerative time if we put in the hard work now. So end of October, most of November is going to be really getting to the bottom of our shadow work. This is going to fall in a different part of all of our charts. So for some of us, we're getting to the bottom of where we are financially. What's holding us back? What's stopping us from making these transformations? There's going to be an emphasis on our need for freedom. Obviously, as you could say, things are playing out in the collective as a need for freedom. A lot of people are afraid that their rights are being stripped from them, and that Venus and Sag, and then as Mercury starts to move through Sag and the sun moves through Sag, there's going to be a bigger emphasis on our freedom. And we have to figure out what's holding us back before we figure out how to become free of it, right? We've got to get to the bottom of these stories that we tell ourselves. And the great thing about Scorpio is that it's so deeply psychological. This isn't about like the little stuff. It's about really getting to the bottom of things psychologically. It's about allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. Now, I always say that there's always two very drastically different ways that this energy can express itself. And the lower realm of Scorpio is to be super protective, very vindictive, very secretive and private, and doesn't really like vulnerability. But these are also the qualities that it requires in order to have that evolution. And we're all clearly on this path of evolution. So if we can't be vulnerable in our relationships, vulnerable in ourselves, if we can't take those risks, then the alternative to that is that things will simply stay the same. And the fixed signs oftentimes like things to stay the same, even if they're not comfortable. However, this month, we're going to get an idea of where that comes from within us. What is holding us back? What's keeping us from making these changes? What are those old habits or those old storylines we told ourselves? What's the fear? Really, the Scorpio season is what is the fear? And if you're doing or operating out of a place of fear, you can kind of expect to be cracked wide open in this area. You know, if we want or need certain things or people to behave a certain way or to stay the same and not allow these things to change and grow, then that's where we hold ourselves back as well. And this is a moment of breakthrough for that, as we have a new moon in Scorpio making an opposition to Uranus in the beginning of the month. This happens on the 4th, and this is a really big energy for these huge breakthroughs. A lot of us are going to figure out why we do the things we do and that we don't want to do them anymore. Now, even in terms of like our diet and our food, and what are we ingesting energetically is a super big part of the storyline this month. Now, I know I just said that we have to pay attention because Scorpio season is going to demand our attention to get to the bottom of these stories. Who do we believe? What do we believe? How's it going to affect us? How do we want to change? Of course. But there's also this energy of allowing the transformation to occur. Remember, there's things we have to let go of. So we have to take a good look at ourselves, psychologically, how we do things, how we hold on to things. And we also have to reassess, where would we be? Would we be better off if we let some of these things go? Some of us, this is like cleaning out the closets, cleaning out the basement kind of stuff. Some of us, this is reassessing our finances. You know, there's this emphasis on that freedom, which means that we're going to want to shed some stuff so we can be freer. Sometimes fate has a way of taking care of this for you. You know, oftentimes I see in these transits, you know, you want to travel, you want to go all these different places, but you have like an elder pet at home. And these transits can come in and kind of end that storyline, not because you wanted it to end, of course, but because the universe says it's time. It's time for this phase to be over and this adventure to begin. It's not always easy. And oftentimes Scorpio energy can be painful, but it's about confronting and feeling the pain and then moving through it. It's about allowing things to end so we can create the new story. A lot of us collectively are having these stories play out in our careers and in our finances, for sure. This is going to be an overwhelming theme, especially as Venus starts to move into Capricorn. This is not a comfort level for Venus at all. Venus in Capricorn means that we've got to kind of hold back a little bit. We've got to, again, like I explained with the animals, what are they doing? They're making sure they have enough food for the long winter. And we have to pull back and make sure that we have enough resources to get us through the harder times. Some of us need our resources to be a form of faith. Some of us, it's actually quite literally financially. Some of us, it's support from other people. There's needs there's wants, and there's something in between here. And it's those necessary tools that we need to recreate this next transition phase. Guys, 2022, Jupiter moving into Pisces. It's a 6-year. This is a very spiritual time for everybody on the planet. And oftentimes that means that because we have to renew our faith, there might be external circumstances that are making you really lean on it at this time. Some of us are facing losing our jobs or our careers. Some of us are facing having to take our children out of school. These are all very real considerations that are going on for people at this time. And as you could see, that all of those options can create an energetic field within us of fear. We got to look that fear right in the face and say, well, what's the worst case scenario and how do I prepare for it? What can I do to strengthen my resolve and my faith when things aren't really going my way? And what do these things mean? What do these roadblocks mean? How do we change these things? The universe wants you to change. Eclipse season is when these things become necessary. It's when the universe sweeps in and makes the changes anyways. So it's a good time to confront your fears. It's a great time to get to the bottom of the hows and whys and the whats. It's a good time to look at what you see for the future and what are the changes you can make right now in order to move toward that path. If anybody is suffering depression, and again, there's so much Saturnian energy for the past year or so, really the past several years, that we could feel this culmination and we could say to ourselves, man, I just don't feel good. I feel achy. I feel tired all the time. I don't feel optimistic. Of course, we're embodying this energy, and we're also embodying the energy of those that we're surrounded with by the news that we're watching, by, just all the craziness that's happening. Maybe it's a good time for some of us to address that, maybe by seeking therapy in some way, seeking some kind of healing dualities. It's a great time for that. It's a great time to dig into our dream interpretations. And it's also, like I said, a great time to look financially deeper into these things. And what do we need? Is there things that we could sell or get rid of in order to free up more financial money, to free up our time? Maybe there's sacrifices we can make so we don't have to work a full-time job, so that we can give more time to our creative projects, which are going to become so important in the next few months as that node moves to the very anaretic degrees of Gemini and Sag. And we have this full moon eclipse coming up in Taurus, and I just want to remind everybody that Taurus does rule the throat chakra, and it is in the second and third decans of this Taurus energy that we're dealing with between the eclipse and where Uranus is located. Now, the second decan of Taurus is Virgo. So again, mundane astrology, the things that are taking place now is quite literally changes for the way that we serve others. So you're looking at these changes with the police. You're looking at these mandates affecting, the medical service-oriented things, pilots, these are all people that, and even the military is ruled by Virgo. So you're looking at people, massive amounts of the collective that are going through these changes and having to confront these fears of whether, if I don't want to get a vaccine, is this worth losing my job or losing my career, or all these years of college and the investments that I put into them? These are not easy decisions. And that's where we can kind of trust these eclipses to come through and change our momentum towards our destiny. And so Venus in Sag, Mercury is going to be moving through Sag. Eventually the sun is going to catch up and move through Sag at the end of the month, closer to this transit. And Taurus also rules the throat chakra. And there's a need for expressing our self-worth here. What are our priorities? What are our values? We're going to begin to associate strongly with some very literal hopes and values that we have. What do we want that new life to look like? What do we want these new structures that we're creating to look like? And it has to be more authentic and of ourselves. Jupiter is going to demand this at the end of Aquarius. There's no more masking things. Quite literally, there's no more masking what we want and what we desire. It's just simply this energy is too big within us for it to be ignored. So it's a really beautiful time for us to assess what really matters to us. Take ownership of the things that we truly want and desire, and to let go of the rest. Now, this month is a lot about compromise. We're going to have to find the compromise. If you are in any kind of a Scorpio energy in which you can't accept a loss in some way, because Mars is going to move into that area in Scorpio, it's going to trigger our egos a lot. And again, I'm going back to those two different forms of that Scorpio energy. If we don't get our way, we could be very vindictive. We can become very manipulative. We're going to feel this need to control situations. This comes from a deep-seated, deep-rooted need to be in control so that we don't have to confront the unknown. The other side of Scorpio is if you let go, oftentimes the things we fear, we're never really worthy of it to begin with. So we have to allow these transformations to take place. We have to allow the dying off in order for the new growth to emerge later. That's ultimately the theme this month, guys. It's a heavy, intense month, but it's a great pause, and it's a great time to assess where we are, what we want, and how to move towards that in a better way. So in a lot of ways, you can make so much of a leap forward this month by confronting all of that inner stuff that blocks us. All right, guys, I do hope you have an amazing November. I hope you enjoy your November readings, and I'll be seeing you shortly. Take care. Bye. Hello, Capricorn. Welcome to 8 of Cups Tarot, and welcome to your cards for November. So let's just start off by saying you are having a massive 11th house transit, and I can't really explain fully how magical this time can be for Capricorn. Now, the 11th house is, in small terms, our friends, our circles, our networking, any kind of, it's sort of being recognized and the feeling of belonging. And it also rules beneficiaries. It's a very lucky house. And I see a lot of people, especially people with major 11th house placements, having a lot of wealth and prosperity. Generally, it's a house of having abundance, having more than you need, and the universe simply delivers this to you because you are likely to share it with the world. It means that people are prone to share with you, Capricorn, because there's a responsibility that you carry as far as reciprocity is concerned. And I think it's important to understand that. Because I feel like a lot of you are questioning exactly where you are and what you are supposed to be doing right now. And you're coming out as the Knight of Wands. And in some ways, I like this energy if used correctly. Some of you are not doing what this card actually means. Now, for me, the Knight of Wands is someone who embraces his freedom. He embraces his instinct. He embraces his intuition. He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't second guess himself. It's really not about the outcome or the expectations. It's simply about the moment. And what I feel is that a lot of my Capricorns have been a little bit out of the moment. Now, of course, that's very typical of Libra season and what October brought to you, because there's a big emphasis on who you are and what you want, and all of these 10th house transits, especially as the Sun and Mercury will be making a final square to Pluto here, which is going to bring you clarity at the very least. Making a square to Pluto, there's big questions that Capricorns are looking at when they're looking at their lives. And I sense that October may have at points been a little bit overwhelming. Looking for signs of what you are supposed to do next. How are you supposed to contribute? What are you going to be remembered for? What is the career path you truly desire? The Knight of Wands is striving for leadership, for authenticity. And some of you may have gotten used to just feeling very busy. I feel like November is a time to stand still, to acknowledge where you are. And this is a really important theme for you as you move through this 11th house transit. And my warning to you is, if you attempt to control, postpone, or delay the changes the universe is bringing to you now, you may miss out on some pretty miraculous events. So in some ways, it's important to keep your eyes open, but in a lot of ways, it's important to empty out. And I think that's what Scorpio season is going to represent for you. Allowing yourself to empty out, to become still, to trust that the universe is going to show you how and what to do next. And this month is a lot about less effort, more inspiration. Now, your environment is that of the Wheel of Fortune, which is why I say there's not a lot for you to do right now, because the universe is doing this for you. See, Capricorn made the requests. They saw the writing on the wall, especially during the Saturn-Pluto-Jupiter conjunction in 2020, right? There is no going back from the realizations that you made at that time. For some of you, you kind of stripped down your world. We ended toxic relationships. We walked away from toxic jobs. We changed our careers. We changed our minds. You know, whatever it is, however this transit hit for you. And it may have felt, although I know 2020 especially was a little bit weird with the whole lockdowns and time kind of standing still for so long. And Capricorn is very uncomfortable in the standing still. See, Capricorn, Saturn-ruled planet, it is your responsibility to remain useful. And for a Capricorn, everything you do is done with a purpose. And the universe is changing. Our environment is changing. And I think we're sensing that Two of Swords. And the Two of Swords is kind of stuck, especially next to the Seven of Wands, sort of stuck in this dichotomy of pushing what I want or just allowing the universe to take over. Or do I try to control this? Do I try to force these situations? Do I try to hold on to these things? And sometimes it's an avoidance as well. And sometimes we don't want to look at situations for what they really are. And the busier we are, the less likely these little irritations will bother us. And so we tend to want to power through. Seven of Wands. You may have chosen to deal with work or obstacles or tasks instead of getting to the bottom of more emotional and significant situations in our life. Now we have the Lovers card here in the center. So of course, for some of you, this is about a relationship. There may be things that you are unwilling to see, unwilling to admit that major changes have to occur, either within you or within the relationship, in order for it to thrive. For some of you, it may be the choice to walk away from something at this time. See, we have a snake here in the Lovers card. We have the Serpent card here. We have the snake here in the Amazon. And whenever I see, there's actually even a little snake here in the North Node. It's the body of the dragon. But when I see a coiled figure like that, I know that there is something deep inside Capricorn. There's a passion. There's been this awakening. Like this muse that comes along and inspires you and tells you that all of this has to change. That life is not about the things that you can accomplish in a day. It's more about the experiences that you can have. Allowing the joy, allowing the destruction, all of it to occur, and knowing that all of it is very much meant for us. And underneath this Gemini card of the Lovers, we have the North Node, life's purpose. And the thing that's really hard about a Capricorn, because you are so loyal and so devoted, and when you put your mind to something, when you make commitments, they are not taken lightly. So we could tend to strive in a certain area, in a relationship or in a job, even though we know it no longer fits us. And because, we've got all of this energy of Cancer in our 7th house, oftentimes we feel an immense amount of guilt or shame if we get the urge to walk away from something. And I think regardless of how much you want to walk away from something, there's a responsibility and there's a pull in these two different directions of the responsible, devoted, and committed Capricorn, and that awakening you've recently had to your need for freedom, your need for happiness and joy, and to just really harness life for all that it has to offer. I think I might have been a past reading that I've done for you, Capricorn, and we talked about like how the internet and technology has allowed all of us to kind of live through massive amounts of karma in one lifetime, which, in previous years when there was no internet, there was no easy way to travel or meet new people from different ends of the earth. You kind of just got married to your neighbor or whatever and lived out that entire life, and nothing ever changed. And so it wasn't so easy to go through all of this karma. And society kind of shaped our minds to believe that once you make a commitment to somebody or some career or job of some sort, that you are to stay there forever. And if you were to change, that you would have to carry an amount of shame or guilt with you. And we just simply know that's not the case. And it's not going to be the case when we're going through these major air transits with Saturn and Jupiter and Aquarius. All of the Libra energy before, things move very swiftly. When we have these connections and we have these experiences and we have these jobs and these careers, not so that they could play out forever, but so that we could experience them, grow from them, and then move on. And I think that Capricorn is kind of stuck between two worlds right now, very much fearing the essence of sudden change. That's this Tower card here. See, if you were to listen to your intuition, if you were to follow your gut instincts, if you were to follow your heart and do the things that you truly want and desire, it would not be the thing you are in right now. And as this awakening occurs, as this inspiration occurs, which is likely a lengthy process, as remember, Scorpio season is all about what are you stripping down and letting go of. We have this card number 52, stand still, and we have this card number 52 on this side, which is straddling worlds, wandering between the realms. Capricorn is wandering between the realms right now of what life is and what it truly could be. And underneath this Tower card, we have this hollow bone teachability, which is very much about the emptying out of self. Now, under that, we have this turning in card number 4. We have to allow ourselves to be hollowed out from time to time, which means we're in a state of surrender, oftentimes indicated by that Two of Swords, where we just have to let go of the things that we don't know and believe the things that we do. And when Scorpio season comes, there is always a question about trust. Now, we often mistake things as, can I trust this other person? Can I trust this other offer? Can I trust this commitment that I'm about to make? But really, the only question you really need to focus on right now is, do you trust yourself? Do you trust that these things are happening to you at this time in the hopes and for the sake of changing your life? Now, some Capricorns will choose to remain here, likely staying in stagnant situations, being very busy in order to make it bearable, which is being in a state of avoidance. And when you're avoiding life, you're not living in the moment, you're not emptying out, you're not allowing inspiration in, which would be a grave disservice to you during an 11th house transit. And the question that you want to ask yourself, as we have so many cards here representing a choice that needs to be made. We've got the Lovers, we have the Judgment card at the bottom of the deck, Two of Swords, often a very cerebral energy, trying to make a choice from the head. And the universe says, why don't you try choosing from your heart? Now, because this Kundalini kind of energy is here, for some of you, there is an awakening even sexually. Now, Venus moving through your 12th house, there could be an affair that's going on, and most likely something that feels very powerful and very freeing and very unlike the current scenario you are in with your partner. And there may be a longing and a desire to turn this affair or this experience into something more permanent. And if that does apply to you, then you have to start asking the questions that universe wants you to ask, which is, why was this set in front of me in the first place? because the change is inevitable. Whether it's an affair, whether it's a fight, whether it's a knockout, drag out thing at work, there will be events, the Tower card, that cause this to change, causes your environment to change, which is simply the universe saying, we heard your request. We know you're not happy where you are right now, and we are giving you the people, places, and things that you need for your next chapter. And you are standing with one leg in the old chapter and one leg in the new, and you are frozen in time. And it is because you are bogging yourself down with feelings of guilt and shame and asking, is this the right thing? Probably taking a lot of other people's concerns into consideration. But I would like to note we have this card number 46 here, the serpent, and card number 28, hollow bone, each adding up to the number 10. 10s are always the end of a cycle. You get to choose. You always have free will. But the universe is giving you an out. Is giving you an opportunity to recreate and reinvent your life. And the choice truly lies in whose voices are you going to listen to. The oppressive voices that say, yeah, but you made this commitment. Yeah, but if you walk away from this marriage or this job, people are going to judge you. Is that the voice that you want to hear? Is that what you choose to listen to? And if you do, Capricorn, that's absolutely fine. But this 11th house transit is an opportunity to change everything if you are brave enough to pursue it, if you are brave enough to follow this awakening moment, this divine inspiration, this magnificent opportunity. And a lot of times what we regret the most is not taking the risks because we feared the change, because we feared disappointing people. And to me, it feels like you are very done with one way and aspect of life and very, very in your soul ready to experience something completely different. And all you have to do is allow it, which involves shutting off your mind a little bit and feeling your way through it. All right, Capricorn. We've had some doozy of readings lately. This one certainly is profound as well. I hope that you guys have a wonderful November, and I will talk to you very soon. Take care.